Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Well, technically, it's not really a welcome back because I kind of revamped my mental health podcast, as this is actually the first episode of the new mental health podcast called Kevilyst Road. If you followed me for a while, I originally had mental health about on my Kevilyst Fate podcast, but I wanted to expand. I wanted to expand it off, and make mental health podcast by itself. So, welcome to a new first episode of Kevilyst Road, and today's guest is Mr. Uh, Kristoco. Jesus Christ,
Yes, sir.
Kristoco. He's been a great friend of mine for about 2 years now, maybe. I lost count when we first met, but
I don't,
uh,
time doesn't matter to me.
yeah, it really doesn't really. But we've been connecting through Facebook, TikTok, and we connect through mental health, and that's why I want to. That's why this is my new spinoff podcast that's mainly about mental health. So if you have a story that you want to share that you feel comfortable sharing, you can contact me, and we can set up a time to do this if you feel comfortable. So welcome, Mr. Kristoco, to the show. How you doing, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's getting a little cold here in Maine tonight. It's going to be the wind blowing.
Oof.
You
Oh man.
know, it's all about preparedness.
Yeah, man. I know you guys got a lot of snow out there, or is it just
Um,
cold?
when I was a kid, this would be like one of the first couple of snows, what we got here. We used to have 8-foot snowbanks when I was a kid, and we'd be playing in it while the plow truck goes by. We don't get
Oh my
snow. I
God.
mean, this has been cold, though.
Wow. Well, before we hop into talk about mental health, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do?
Well,
Well, I know what you do, but the audience don't know yet.
Since we're talking about mental health here, I was a kid, troubled family, got into a lot of problems with alcohol, drugs, did a lot of things I'm not proud of, but, it is what has brought me to today. Today, I apparently have long COVID, yet I started really fighting in the system with NAMI, working in the jails, being on homeless boards as a homeless person. And I don't know, even as a kid I refused to quit school when I lived on the streets. um I kept trying. I never stopped. I felt like there was always something better, so here I am now. I'm writing books. um Not that they're popular, because they don't touch areas a lot of men want to discuss, and a lot of females today. Yeah, I also write music, poetry. I mentor on self love. I've done podcasts. I've started nonprofits. And today I am trying to help a community that I truly, have not really ever lived in until I got to this point where I was stuck because you can't jump from doctor to doctor.
Wow.
And I've overcome depression.
Yeah, like I've dealt with depression when I was a kid a lot, especially growing up in a household where I was the only male the entire time. I had like male figures around, but they wasn't around like permanently. It's just my mother, my grandmother, my sister, and then there's me, like the random guy here. And I've always dealt with what is my purpose here? Like, why did God put me here? Uh, like, there's no point of me here. And I was always nonchalant because I felt like being nonchalant is like a protective mechanism for me. And I've always been like socially awkward. I don't know. I don't know how to talk to people, and people didn't really care to talk to me anyway. So that made it easier. I was like, I don't give a crap about people. So I kind of grew in like that heart. I was like, I don't give a crap about people. They don't care about me either. Like my mother don't even care about me. My sister don't care about me. And so I got that type of I had that type of mindset and everything. And
Wow.
I grew like this tension saying that my mother loved my sister more than me, and like didn't care for me. Excuse me, like didn't care for me at all and stuff. But the thing is, my sister did a lot more stuff than I did. Like, so my sister was a part of like piano, award stuff, and so many like community stuff that I didn't really care to see for myself. And my mother has always supported her because she was actually going out there doing stuff while I was just sitting around and just I don't know. And so, but in my head, it's like that I made up my mind that my mom loves her more than me anyway. So I'm like, I don't care. So what's the point of me wanting to try to get into something? She's not gonna support me no way,
I would
which
dare
was a
say,
lot.
your mom is probably my age, Gen X.
What years is Gen X?
Ah,
Uh,
something about, I
but
think,
more than like
69 to 80.
yes, then yes.
So
But then yeah,
if you were like what we would call the video game generation, which you probably are,
yeah.
that was seen as
I used
useless.
to play a lot of games. Yeah,
That was seen as useless waste of time because we were raised outdoors. We weren't allowed to sit
yeah,
indoors. Even with Atari coming in, you were only allowed an hour. And if you busted that hour, your ass got busted.
yeah. But
There was
that's
no
funny.
arguing with your parent back then. It was arguing and pop in the mouth. Want to do it again? Nope.
That's funny. My mother always tried to get my sister and I to go outside and get some sun and not be in the house all the time. And she's always said, when I was a kid, we used to go outside and just do random stuff. I'm like, be creative, go have fun outside.
I think that's
Don't
why
be
there was
watching
less
all the
depression.
right. And I'm like, don't be in all this TV stuff. Like back in my day, we actually was creating businesses without even realizing we were creating a business, just by being creative. And so I'm like, we went outside like once a year, like once every other year, I guess, like 5 minutes. I remember it snowed. When it snowed, we went outside for like a good 10 minutes. Just as okay, we went outside. There you go, Mom. She's like, really, guys, really? I was like, we don't really care to go outside. I'm like, we're both, because we're both introverted people, and so we just like be stuck to ourselves and
That's funny.
everything. Yeah, growing up, I did play a lot of video games. I'm a PlayStation kid. I play wrestling, like WWE, to Raw to SmackDown, 2007, 2009, Mortal Kombat, G-Force, Street Fighter,
Yeah, I
and
can't do
so
a
many.
lot of them. My eyes can't follow because I'm color deficient. So some things they'll be like, shoot it. And I'll be like,
Yeah,
where is it?
yeah, that's
And they're like
yeah,
right in front of you. And it's like, really?
yeah.
And then you're running and you're going so fast. It's like, it's like, I can't. And then I
Oh
get
yeah,
dizzy and it's like, I got to sit down.
oh yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, and growing up, I remember my mom told me that she didn't want to have a son, and I took
Oh,
that the
that's
wrong.
hard. That's
I,
hard.
but it actually wasn't because I took it the wrong way without asking what she meant, and she didn't mean it the way I thought she meant it. And so a couple years later, I held that on for a couple years, and and then as I got older, she sat me down, actually talked to me, and told me what she meant. She said that she didn't want to have a son with the man she was with because she said that she knew that he would not be around, and she was terrified of raising a son by herself.
I get that.
And that day, I remember it broke me to pieces. Cause I carried that burden, as like she didn't love me and stuff for years. And dude, when she told me that, I asked for her forgiveness like 1,000 times, because I wasn't sure if she would even. She said she forgave me, but I just wasn't sure if she forgave me. And she said, "Boy, shut up. Yes, I forgave you." I mean, she said, "Boy, shut up. I forgave you. You need to forgive yourself now." And she's like, "The problem is not you thinking that I didn't forgive you. The problem is you're not forgiving yourself. So
And
you
people
keep blaming
struggle with
yourself."
that. People struggle with that because they don't understand that the and I explain to people because when I worked with people in the jail,
Hmm.
we did what's now called jail diversion,
Hmm.
and it was the peer to peer program. We were in the Penobscot County Jail. we'd get locked in with, 10 or 15 inmates, and we would, there's usually two or three of us in there that, I don't know, I'm good at picking groups, I guess, and we got together and we kicked ass, but you would hear from a lot of people, you know, that, well, they would hang on to it's them, and I'd be like, put yourself in the mirror room. You got to start understanding because no matter if you believe like in God and the Bible, or you believe that there's just, a spirit out there spiritually, you cannot say, I am the great I am, without saying I. If we are a perfect image of our Maker, then we have the power within to overcome anything. We're just locked by this and the repetitive tapes. And I always tell them, when you learn to forgive yourself, it's the process of during that time, let's say even rape. And I hate to use rape, but I think some people would understand this because I've worked with a lot of women and they're like, oh my God, I never thought of that. When it comes to self-blame. They always say, well, what part did I take? Well, the subconscious already says, hey, did I not give you a red flag in your tummy stating, maybe you shouldn't go tonight? Or maybe you shouldn't wear this, you should have worn the other. Or maybe you should have taken the suggestion of getting a walk home or a ride home. We ignore that gut feeling. We
Yeah.
ignore the intuition saying, hello, wake up, I'm warning you, I just got an odd feeling. And it was amazing how many eyes I saw in that room just tear up, and they understood at that moment that all their lives they've been doubting themselves so much that self-love cannot trickle in. And it's all about going, oh, like you already admitted you misunderstood it. Instead of clarifying it, you held it. So you blame yourself for that. Now you understand why it's easier to let go. When someone understands that they didn't listen to self, and they're like, oh my God, now they're opened up to two thoughts. The thought of forgiving themselves, and the thought of understanding that they're really speaking to themselves from inside, honestly. They can start trusting that, and they start to
Yep.
understand what that means. It gives them,
Yep.
unless they want to hold that anger and want revenge, and then they're not going to see the lesson until they let go.
Yep. Yep. I
It's
agree on
hard.
that one. It's very hard. And forgiveness is not an easy thing to come by. One of the things my mom has always taught me says sometimes you have to say forgive 1,000 times before your mind and your spirit actually believes it.
Repetitiveness.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
you have to say, and she said it's best said out loud so your ears can hear it, and not just say it in your mind. So because you have to put it
well,
out into the atmosphere.
Well, you also, by hearing it, you get to understand where some of it might not be the appropriate message. Because sometimes, we get the big thinkers that, the ones that are used to doing the I promise, and ignoring that, they got like all kinds of facetious words shoved in there. And when you say it out loud, you can really hear that. And there's no denying that you're not doing what is right. You know,
Exactly. Yep.
I'm not a man. I don't follow man's society ways. I don't follow man's religion. I don't follow nothing of that. I go by what my gut
Mhm.
tells me. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
I've come from the streets. I was an alcoholic that had major depression and would have major rage outbreaks. And during that time, I caused myself a lot of mess. I did. And I drank every day because I wanted to die. It wasn't because I needed the alcohol. I literally wanted to die. I wanted to piss off somebody like my wife or whoever I was near to kill me.
Yeah.
I
My God.
literally did. It got so bad in my youth. When I was in my early 20s, I swallowed 72 sleeping pills, I crushed them up in a Kool-Aid, little 8-ounce Kool-Aid cup and just drank it down, laid on the Just laid my head on the table. It's the most peaceful moment I ever had in my life. I had the most clarity that something was meant. My cousin walked,
Man.
and I said, I did. I says, if this is where I'm meant to stay, then give me a sign. My cousin walked through the door at that time, and he had never accepted his dad's death. So to die while he had already still struggling with that death in the same place that he lives, yeah, I couldn't do that. So I told him, take me out for a walk. And then I knew, but it didn't stop the drinking career. And then I did horrible stuff to a lot of people that I cared about my drinking career because I still wanted to die. And when I sobered up, the depression came in like a friggin' cannonball.
Oof.
I would have dreams, because I still had so much rage and hate from my youth. I hated my dad because of what I heard. I hated my mom because of what I found out. And I hated that I turned out never knowing what it was like to have a dad. So I didn't know what it was like to be a dad. So I ran scared shitless drinking even more.
My God.
And yeah, and so I threw away a lot of my life. And, I had good jobs and I'd leave them as long as I could pound the old alcohol and the drugs. I mean, we even had a band that would come in and throw all the furniture out on the front lawn. Rain, shine, snow, didn't matter. We were playing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then one night, this is when it all stopped and I got sober. One night somebody had traded me 2 bowls of weed for 2 beers. And I remember that I had divorce papers set out on the counter. So when I went, I wanted to be as sober as possible when I got back. And I don't remember but bringing the guitar player halfway home. I don't remember
Really?
the rest of the night until I got woken up and I was in agonizing pain. I had mic stands across my back, a speaker on me, thumb bent backwards, contusions on the neck, kept passing out. In jail and no clue what I'd done. Apparently, I flipped out and I hurt a bunch of people.
My
And
God.
I don't remember none of it. So when I finally got to read the paperwork, I broke down because that's not the person I ever wanted to be. I didn't mind if I got hurt. I never wanted to hurt anybody else. And so when this thing called Volunteers of America, which everybody has heard about at least once now, I think, across America, this gentleman named Bill Beck gave me a chance to get my life back. He was the only man I ever heard that says, I see something within you. Would you like to see what it is? And little old me, I knew going to prison for 15 years or so was going to really be, let's just say, a soreness to my sitting for a while, probably. So I between fear and curiosity, I took everything he threw at me. And I went to every group I had to do. I went to AA and I did AA for 10 years. And then I realized, I don't know, going there and reminding myself of how much of an asshole I was and what I'd done really doesn't help lift me up. Not if I'm doing it 3 times a week, 4 weeks a month. Why focus on the negative? There's got to be better. Now, I got a degree while in recovery, living on the streets. You know, I started my first PC program through the jail with an IT director, Cliff Warren. He's no longer there, but that was in the Penobscot County Jail. We saved the community and non-traditional students a ton of money, and then I got in onto these committees and I was still angry at the world because the system should work better. My generation should have been better than my parents' generation and so forth.
Mhm.
And we seem to be the only country that's going backwards lately. And it's sad, but I had
Yeah.
so much anger that I was so demanding and so, short-sighted. And
Mhm.
my depression would win out every season. Every season. I weren't paying attention to when it was coming, what I needed, what was happening, and I'd crack. And
Wow.
well, I mean, that's the whole cycle of depression. And if you get seasonal, see, like I had subsad, so I would start September, October, start going downhill and get really dark. So I would get into the political and the religious aspects of the fight every year
Mm,
online. And of course, me, I'm a researcher, so I'd go and I'd hunt and I'd put out truth, and it didn't matter what side you were talking to, they all hated me. Kind of like now when
yeah,
I got to fight on a community board, or a community group to bring positive change that isn't going to change anything within the community except for strengthen it. It's like, why? Why not? I don't want nothing out of it. That's why I don't put my real name into it. It's not that hard to find out my real name, you know?
yeah,
So it's not like I'm hiding, but boy, yeah, it's just, I don't need that.
man, yeah. Um, I've always told everybody, I'm like, I'm not a political person. I don't follow either party because they're all BS. But I can tell you exactly what's going on regardless. I'm like, that's the,
It's like a soap opera. You can watch Guiding Light when you're 5 years old, and when you're 30, they're all
yep,
still doing the same
they're
chicks or the
doing the
same
exact
family.
same thing. Yeah, the exact same thing. And
Yeah,
I've
and
always said,
people don't realize it's like we people don't realize they say that we should be the most intelligent we've ever been, and wrong. If you go back to the ancient times, they were the most intelligent ever because they realized that they had to live amongst the world, not conquer it. So that they always had food, they always had water, they always had, what they needed. Nothing was locked away. I've been reading these books from Daniel Quinn, and it's like I wish I would have read them back when I was in my depressive mode, because it would have, like, wow, it would have just opened me up so much sooner on what I truly feel. I mean, you had said earlier, you've never felt like you've belonged. My first memory, my dad asked me, "What's your first memory?" I says, "Don't really know. All I know is the color is like when you see through skin in a flashlight." And then I made some marks, and he says, "That's impossible." Why? He says, "Because that was before you were born."
snap.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Well, that's what I remember right there." And he says, "That's before you were born." So when I was, like, I think probably 3 or 4, I was old enough to walk, yeah, up and down steps, so probably 4 or 5. Um, I remember an out of body experience, but I don't remember returning.
Hmm.
I've always had weird, odd feelings. I've never fit in with any crowd. I've never, I mean, it's
Yeah.
rare that I have any friends because people don't dive deep enough for me. I get bored with people quick, and I don't tolerate BS. You want to bring, like, I've had girls that want to date because they love the idea of me, yet they don't love once they realize that that is who I am. I don't live in no I don't live in no bullshit. I say I live a 90% honest life. The 10% is what we all do. We all fib a bit when we want to get out of a day of work. We all might fib a bit if, we did something stupid and it's like, oh, we fixed it, doesn't matter. So, we're just going to bypass that telling anybody. You know, there's those little, like we'll buy a present for somebody and we don't want them to know.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
little white lies.
yeah.
So that's 10% of the lies that we're kind of okay to have as long as they're not facetious out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've always said that I'm private, but I don't keep secrets.
I keep.
I
Well, I
said,
mean, if you told me something and you said it's between me and you, it's
mm,
between me and you. That's the way I am. I don't care even, like, go. I mean, that's the thing with not having depression now. I beat my depression with a parasitic called ghost pipe, Indian pipe, Monotropa uniflora.
like
Them are the
the
three
only
names.
like the only secret I would like keep is like you said, if you buy like a gift or if like we don't want nobody to know, or if it's something like deal with my culture that I can't share to everybody, then that might be like the only time I actually like keep something secret.
And that makes sense. That's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause I'm still an introvert today. I'm like, you can't trust everybody with everything that goes on in your life. Yes, there's still people that gossip and just yap and just yap and just yap, and it's really just annoying as all get out. And
Yeah,
I can't deal with that crap.
I shut them people out.
I'm not in high school anymore. I'm like, this ain't high school, this ain't middle school no more. I'm a grown man. I don't have time for this stuff.
But I'll tell you what I get all the time is I'll be in like I when I used to be in my most depressed state and out in the grocery store, and you try to show that you're not depressed. You try to because you're thinking you're sticking out like a sore thumb. You think the world's looking at you, or something like someone looks at you like, do I get a booger on my face or something? You're always freaking out in one way or another, and so it's weird when you kind of like try to fake it and then someone comes up and starts dumping their problems on you.
Hmm.
And it's like I've always been the counselor. I mean, my childhood was have you ever heard of Oedipus?
Yeah, yes, I think I have.
My childhood was Oedipus in reverse. Yeah.
I mean, that's actually happened to me quite a few times. Not just me, but me and my mother and my sister. We could be like this out, mind our business, shopping, getting what we need and what we want.
And then someone starts
Someone just, but that's quiet. We're quiet people too. We're very quiet and just focused. And then like randomly someone next to us just end up talking to us and tell us their whole life story, and we just politely listen to them because the way we kind of approach it is like they may just need someone to listen and just talk to. It's like we didn't stop them or nothing. We just said really, and plus it was a long freaking line too. So just that person that needed to vent about something, and he or she chose us to talk to. And
yeah,
so
but
we
at the
just
same
listened, and it was
time,
a really good conversation because it had me intrigued. I'm like, wait, what?
but at the same time, it could have been also what one of you guys in the group needed at that moment too. There's always a give and a
True.
take. It's kind of weird how it works.
Yeah, a couple months ago, uh, it's me and my sisters, I have two sisters, we went out to the zoo event called the Zoo Lanterns, where they light up lanterns, and they have the Chinese New Year designs. They come every year from China. From China themselves, they come. From artists from China themselves come here every year to do this event to sell their Chinese New Year's um, merchandise and creative art they make.
Cool.
And so this was so freaking funny. Oh, I mean, we might be grown, but we're kids at heart all the time. And so we was like, can we not adult for a while? And we went on the merry-go-round. He was the only one. It was blazing cold, and people were like barely there. But well, us three got on the merry-go-round. It started, and then a whole crowd started coming in when we got on, and it started. And the person that operates the thing, we told him, you can stop it so people can come on. We don't mind waiting. And she's like, you sure? I was like, yeah. As soon as we told that operator, she stopped it. And everybody just blazed on in. I was like, they was like, thank you. I was like, heck yeah. I'm like, we're all having fun. We're being kids. Like, come on, yes, we don't mind waiting. Come on in. And when it got packed so freaking quick. It was so freaking fun. And the guy sat next to me on the other animal that was beside me, and he just instantly starts having a conversation with me, telling me how like saying how many times he had to go on these merry-go-rounds for the past week that he had because of his daughter.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. And it's amazing, like in the times of need when we don't think we need it. Because every time someone's come up to me and they've been like, right, it's like it freaks me out because it's always about something dramatic in their life, and at the same time, it opens me up because I know a lot of reasons why and how come because of the training and where I've been.
Exactly.
So it allows me, and then all of a sudden, my moment of down and weakness is now become a moment of strength. And their moment of weakness has now become a moment of education and possible strength. So the seed was planted. And for some reason, at that moment, I was meant to plant seed and they were meant to help heal that moment of downness.
Yep.
And that's how I
Yep.
choose to see it, because,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it just works that way. I mean, I have a thing all the time: positive vibe, positive mind, positive vibes, positive life.
Hmm.
And it did. It took me a while. I mean, that's why I wrote my book. When I got to the point where it's like, wow, is my depression gone? Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
And, it blew my mind that I wasn't like, I could look back and I could say, wow, today's a bad day. All right,
Hmm.
I don't want to die. I don't want to
Hmm.
close myself up. I don't want to cause any mayhem. Wow, what's this all about? But I'm able to
Right.
look back
Yeah.
and go, wow, the cloud is way the hell over there bothering somebody else. Though I
Hmm.
feel bad they're bothering somebody else.
Yep. Yep.
So it's one of those things where, you've got to do, what you need in order to find that peace. And for me, it was about getting the tools from all the old men that I used to hang out with when I did my drugs in the young youth age. And, the older gentlemen that raised me on the farm, my grandfather, my uncles, my great uncles, they all had good lessons because they'd already been there. Though I was
Hmm.
too young to understand that. And I wish I would have paid more attention. But
Hmm.
it was those things that kept echoing at me at my weakest moments. And for some reason, you know, I mean, I survived a car accident where my face tore the dashboard out of a Chevette,
Wow.
and all I did was split my nose and split my lip. That's it,
Mm.
and they're like, How did he live?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. I've survived a lot, living under bridges, living on the streets, and it's not like I had it rough as in, someone on New York streets or LA streets. Had it rough as in someone on the very East Coast on the Ocean Street,
Mm.
so I got to worry more about the weather than I do somebody else.
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't blame anybody. I don't have no ill will towards any of my parents. When I was a child, I did, and for a long time, I carried that anger and that hate, and that's what made me hate the world and want to die. I just wanted to spew that hate onto everybody and everything, and at the same time, there was a piece of me that felt like there was more, something better. Um, I've talked to theologians and ministers, and I almost tried to become a minister once myself when I got sober, but it just that still didn't feel right to me. And there was just something that was yearning and yawning, and I did a lot of research into theology and the Bible and the Mormon Bible and King James and I realized that white man every time white man sticks his fingers on something, he destroys it. It's a virus, and even me as a white man can say white man has got to stop messing with stuff because all it brings is depression, hate, anger, violence, control, power. And, you know, it's hard not to be depressed in this world. When you work a 40-hour week job, well, most people don't even know what a 40-hour week job is because they can't get one. But,
Like I
a
know.
good,
I mean, I know what it is. It's like
well,
I have my. I'm like I have
they're going
my.
90 hours a week right now. But
Yeah. I had like my first and last 9 to 5 kind of sorta. It was a summer job at my leadership camp called Bridge
nice.
Builders. I went to Beers from ninth grade to 12th grade, and I worked there my when I graduated high school in 2018. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old, actually. Since second, I've started the way I started creating clothing, like trying to getting that creativity flow, get that creative flow going. I started from shirts to jackets to tie dye to joggers, and then got into shoes, and then I got into writing when I because I found out I had a gift in writing when I was in high school, actually. Even though I hated writing with a passion like my entire life. But it was my freshman year of high school, ninth grade year, African American history class. My teacher gave us our first paper. He leveled us from 1 to 5, where it's like one, you need a lot of help, you're not there. I'm like work with you 1 on 1. 3 is like you're there, but I want to push you to that 5, which is more professional, above college level writing. And my first paper back, he said that I was a level 3. And he said that I have a great gift in writing. He just wants to push me higher now and keep honing that
Ooh,
craft.
I like
Yeah.
them.
And keep honing that craft and continue going to get to that 5 and beyond. And of course, I looked at him crazy. I was like, me? Really? Say, I freaking hate writing. But then and then it turns out my mother is also a writer herself. So it turns out it's actually in my blood. She let me read her murder mystery book that she's rehashing now, and that really inspired me like to want to like, challenge myself. I want to write a murder mystery. I want to, and I read some of her poetry. I was like, I want to write some poetry, see what I can do with it, and see what's my strong suit and everything. And so I wrote my first book in 2021, I think it was. It's been a while. But I took it down like 2 years later because one, I hated it. Uh, but two, I feel like it wasn't that time for that book to be out, and I shouldn't publish it yet. Because one, I think I was too young. I wasn't fully experienced of life yet. Because it was a story about my life and what I wanted
Yeah.
to share. And like going back, reading over, I wasn't as open as I think to be relatable. It was more on a surface level um, type of book. And so I took it down 2 years later, 2023. I took it down, and now 3 years later, I'm finally picking it back up. 3 years after taking it down, I'm finally picking it back up because I'm in a better headspace and in a better atmosphere that I can actually now be more open about it and be just me. And that's why I got into podcasting, and because because I started being a guest on podcasts around 2024 when I started promoting my comics, and I started writing comics and like getting myself out there, building my brand, and basically figuring out me and what I want to do in my career. That's why, and then it was 2025 August, I think it was 2025 August. I mean August of 2025, I believe. That's when I started hosting my own podcast, which is the Kevilyst Road Network. That originally, yeah, that originally was a pre-recorded podcast because I was just starting out. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But then a friend of mine, he picked me up for on his network. Asked me, "Hey, you want to put your show on my network and we can just and do a live stream and we pick a day or time that you live stream that show?" I was like, I hesitated. I was like, a live stream? That's actually talking to people directly. I
For an
hesitated, but
introvert, that could be much.
yeah, I was like, but then I was like, a week or two later, I was like, you know what? Screw it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And so started that. I made a calendar for people to sign up. It got booked so freaking fast. I was not expecting the people would even want to talk to me. Uh, and so I was like, what the crap? Okay. So now it's like that podcast has been booked till the summer of this year. I'm just like, good Lord, you guys actually want to talk to me on my, like what the world? And so that's why I created a second podcast, Kevilyst Fate podcast, which it was originally well, first Kelson Network was like my mental health podcast, but then it went to live stream, so I kind of switched it and made a spinoff called Kevilyst Fate podcast to be my mental health podcast, but still entertainment. But then now Kevilyst Fate is starting to pick up more for guests, for more creatives to come up, wanting to come on that one because if they can't catch my live stream, so they're both getting booked now. It's like, okay, you know what? Let me do one more spinoff and actually make the next spinoff mainly mental health because I have to think about not everyone is comfortable with mental health and not everyone's comfortable
True.
talking about it. So I'm like, okay, I need to be very strategic. And then I thought about, oh wait a minute, Kristoco is my next guest. I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and rebrand right now.
I
And
mean,
I was
people
like,
don't realize. I mean, like right now, they're probably looking like, depending on how this is played out, if they're seeing this, they're like, how does this got to do with mental health? Well, the thing is this is the rewards of learning to overcome by listening to
uh-huh,
self, by learning
exactly.
self-love. You know,
Yeah.
a big part of why I've never been able to write a book like, a novel type book because I'm too busy bouncing back and forth and up and down and over. I can't keep my mind square because I have so many ideas. I mean, I've created my first nonprofit was when I was in my 20s and they're still doing it today. My
Mm-hmm.
second one was a short lived one, but it was meant to only be a short lived one because it was made out of need for, marriage equality. My third one got snuffed out politically because I wanted to change the grant and the nonprofit status. I wanted to make it so that it was truly nonprofit and grants were truly not being wasted. And no, woo.
Right.
But
And
I
so
mean, when
now
when
that's
I
why.
was depressed, all I could do is be angry and shout and scream, and nobody would hear me. When I got to the point of getting past my depression by learning self love, I mean, like in my book, that's coming up on 13th, um, that is really how I overcame my depression, how I overcame my doubts, my fears, everything. For me, I made it. I wanted to. I'm tired. I went to college, and I am so tired of people talking $16 language, $30 language, $100 language to someone that only understands $2 language. So I made my book so people at any language level can understand it as simply. I mean, I don't think you could get it any friggin' more dumbed down. And that's what I wanted because I wanted people to realize if you do these things, you can find you because it's simply literally our depression comes from letting ourselves down. Yes, some of it is chemical. I am not going to debunk that. Some of it is neurologically, chemically, what have you, DNA, but there's a big piece of it we feed because of how we feel about ourselves. So,
Agreed.
yeah, someone comes along and gives you what you want and fills that cup the way you need. Guess what happens? Your depression's a thing of the past all of a sudden. And we don't recognize that. We only recognize the dark cloud.
Exactly.
It's all about looking and being aware of self that picks you up out of that cloud and also picks you up into life. Because, I mean,
Hmm.
I live in my car, dude. It's 6 years in my car in Maine, and I've published a book. I have worked with nonprofits. I'm trying to help a city grow, even though it's turned into a battle. And I'm not giving up. And I also possibly have long COVID, but I do have fibromyalgia you know so it's like wow, I've got the world against me and no doctors. My counselor said, no wonder why the doctors don't understand you. You should be depressed and anxious right now because most people in your situation would be. And I says, why? Every time I let life steer the wheel, what I need happens.
Hmm.
Every single time I stop worrying about it and I do what I'm supposed to, it happens.
Hmm.
And
And
it's brought the police to come up and say, "Hey, wow, how come you haven't been doing your videos anymore? Somebody local paid attention? Are you kidding me?" And I looked at him and I
right.
said, "You have to replenish sometimes." And right now I'm replenishing and I'm reformulating and I'm trying to find out, now that it's not looking like I'm going to go back to work and I'm not going to have the life that I used to love, how do I recreate myself and live a life I can love by doing all I can to help another person? And that defeats I mean, I literally use ghost pipe to get rid of my depression as far as, the chemical, I think, because I haven't had it since I've utilized it. But also, I think working on that self love for 4 or 5 years and being honest with myself. I mean, because you don't really start thinking about your life until you're deathly alone. And when you get sick with some odd disease, everybody disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally that would plummet somebody into a dark, deep depression. Oh my God, I'm not worthy. I have no value. They don't love me. They hate me. It was all fake. You start thinking all that. Me, I looked at it as just like a snake. It had to be shed so that I could see through them shedded. Because when they shed over that layer over their eyes. Some animals.
Yep.
Now I can see. Now I know who is going to be there, be called brother, be called sister, who's really going to be there for me. And at the same time, I get to look within and learn, why did I have to shed? What was the lesson? And see, people don't see that because we've come away from that time frame where people have enough time to actually think. I mean, why do we got such great ancient buildings lasting thousands of years and waterways? Because they had time to ponder. They had time to think. They had time to explore and learn. We don't today. So, how do we get rid of depression? If we don't believe in ourselves, it's never going to go away. It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
you being culturally in the position you have probably grown up in, you probably had gone through a lot more problems than I did, because I would be considered privileged,
Mm-hmm.
and I do see them differences. And I always did wonder, how does somebody feel within that? And I got to speak to a lot of people. Oriental, I mean, all different cultures, Iranian, Afghani, Kuwait, I mean, all these different cultures I got to speak to one time. And we're no different. We feel no different. It's just some have it a lot harder and longer than others. And it just blew my mind how many of them felt exactly the same words that I did. I mean, it literally broke my heart to think that wow, it's, that people, like, especially the people that really truly lived during the Holocaust, during the 60s, the 50s. Just some of them people I got to talk to and the atrocities they got to see their family or themselves go through, and what that did to their mental health afterwards and how they overcame that proved to me that I could overcome it, that I could do it just like they did. And they were doing good. And I was like, how the hell do you turn that around without hating somebody or wanting to choke somebody? And
Right.
literally that anger was my own anger of myself for failing myself every single day, for giving up. Kind of like when I tell people when they smoking a cigarette and they want to quit. Sooner or later, we grab one and we take a couple of puffs and we realize, oh crap. Well, then, crap, I got it. I might as well finish it. No, right then and there, you just gave up on yourself. Put the damn thing down and say, I quit, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
We give up on ourselves every day.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And that's the thing is we've got to teach people in this nation, in our families, in our jobs, whatever, by being an example. And they say, geez, how come you're not that? Because I choose not to be, because life doesn't give me what I need when I become hateful. And it's hard to see that for so many people. And that's why I structured the book so it was 30 days. First step, 30 days. If you're willing to give up on yourself for 30 days, you aren't ready. You don't see yourself enough to be willing or worthy of doing that. And that's
Exactly.
sad, but no one can push you to be ready.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, that's actually why I started getting into podcasting myself, is to try to bring a voice for those that don't have a voice or don't know how to find their voice. And so, and as I mean, as men, we're always been like saying that men don't have emotions, or
Oh,
um, saying that men are, I don't know, we get called weak for showing our emotional side. And I was like, I call that BS, because one, we're not weak for showing our vulnerability. Showing our vulnerability actually makes us stronger. Because showing our vulnerability is showing how emotionally intelligent we are, if you choose to be.
and
And it becomes like really toxic if men walk around holding and bottling things up and not actually facing the demon that's in front of them. That's what makes toxic masculinity that people call.
and the
And that's
sad
what
thing is today's generation of man doesn't really understand what family is supposed to be because it's been destroyed
exactly.
in this country. I think that's why we don't have a racial problem. We have a jealousy problem because all the other races, it, they embody what we no longer have.
hmm And that's
I
why I'm
really
like,
think it is a
that's
jealousy problem.
yeah, that's why when every time I'm looking at this politics stuff, they always call it's kind of like racism and stuff. It's like, yes, it is a bit tad of racism, but at the same time, it goes way deeper than that now. Like you said, jealousy. I was like, because it always starts with jealousy, because somebody can see another person how successful that person is, and they instantly get jealous, so they try to bash them, lie on their name, try to tear their image down, yada yada yada, the same old, because they feel like they have everything they want. And I'm just looking at like, and it's like, why are you trying to tear them down and make yourself feel better, not just work for what they got? You don't know what the hell they went through to get to that where they are, and now you just want to tear it down because you're simple jealousy. Like, are you kidding me right now? And like, and let me, dude, I gotta tell you this story. A friend of mine, she's a big influencer. She's a musician. When I say and she makes posts about relationships and how, cause she's gone through a lot of things in relationships when she shares what she's learned from a woman's side and a man's side, and how she says how she feels that, I mean, how a man's supposed to treat a woman, right? And so every time she makes a post, I purposely go to the comment section before I even watch the video. I read the caption, because I actually read, and I read the caption of what she's saying. I purposely go to the comment because I know that's going to be a bunch of little boys complaining. That's why she's single. That's why she old and have no kids and blah blah blah. And I'm laughing my time like, I freaking knew it. I was like, you missed the entire point of what she said. If you actually get your head out of your ass, you actually know what she's saying. And I was like, and I politely put a comment, say, agreed. As a man, this is what we're supposed to do. And then some of those little boys, some as a man, that's a stretch coming from you. I'm like basically telling something that I'm not a man. And then another guy saying, like, bro, she's not gonna let you hit, right? And I actually responded back. I say, your definition of man is being toxic, and you just and looking at your profile, you're just a little boy that probably your mother don't even love you. Yes, I,
You
I
know,
get petty. I'm like, yes, I get petty very quickly. And then I was like, then somebody said, bro, she's not gonna shoot. She's not gonna let you hit. I'm like, wonderful. I'm like, first of all, I ain't trying to hit. Second of all, she's my friend. third of all, what is your problem with respecting women? And then the dude coming back, he said, "Oh, he got friend zoned." I'm like, I literally just said, "She's my friend, you idiot." And I'm like, I got two. I'm like, I got two things that you'll never get from her. One, I got her respect. Two, I got her. Well, like three things. One, I got her respect. Two, I got her friendship. And three, I got her number, so I talk to her all the time anyway. So you're not even gonna get close to talking to her. And
Well, see that.
the funny thing, that same day, I was on a phone call with her the same day, telling her what happened. I was like, I don't know how you deal with this stuff, and she was like, I don't know. She's like, we
I
both
mean
just laughing.
that's why women have such a hard time believing a man or believing that a
Yeah,
man would be honest. And I'll be
yeah,
honest, when I was a drunk and I was young, I was raised by my grandfather, who was, he was a naughty old man, in his
oh my
verbiage and
God.
stuff. And so I can't call the girls. We were raised that way. That's what was normal for Gen X. But at the same time, back then, if you liked somebody, you just told them. You didn't play games, and if they liked you, all right, cool. But you also already kind of knew them.
Hmm.
Today, we don't know anybody.
Hmm.
And online, who knows who anybody really is? And, these date sites, they want it done quick and over. And it's like, and nobody knows how to have a conversation. And then I look at
At
why.
all.
Why? Because
Hmm.
women don't have a reason to trust men anymore. And when you are a romantic or you are trying to, show them romance the way it should be, they love it. They'll soak it up. They'll embrace it. Yet sooner or later it dawns on them. The last guy love bombed me. Oh my God, and boom, they're gone.
Yeah.
And you can't blame them. So, when women get that side on them, it's because of those young gentlemen in there that think that, the rap music, hey baby ho, and all that is sexy, and they don't realize that women are listening to the beat. But you had also said something earlier about men and women, different feelings, or men shouldn't have feelings. When I worked in the jail, we did this thing up on the wall when we gave a situation and asked the people to, what are your feelings behind this? And they would give us the name, and we did all women, one group, and all men the next, and they said the exact same words. Men and women are no different. It's how they show it.
Hmm.
Men don't usually show emotion until they are truly taught that emotion can be power. You can utilize it for good. You can take the anger and you can turn that anger into a positive. If you leave hurt out of the anger, boy, you ain't going to end up in rage. That's what being self aware is. That's why, like with my book, it always talks about, you got to stop and do one thing at a time. But at the same time, you really have to be self-aware of, like me. I didn't realize seasonal depression would come until I pushed everybody away. And then when I started being self-aware and saying, okay, when does this start? All right, I'm starting to notice like I'm not so lately. Oh wow. All right, mid-August. Okay, even though September is usually the month we lose most of our warmth and our sunshine, basically the big dip, I can sense it coming. So I prepare for that. And the thing is even with our emotions, we have to be self-aware of why are they there, how come, and if they're of something of self, because a lot of us, when we're angry at something, we're really truly angry at ourselves, except for today's political venue, which, sad to bring, I hate to bring those things up, but we're in a world now where all that anger that's been bubbling up, which has been depression and all those things for so many people in this country, someone gave them an outlet that made it okay to just rage that out. And I believe that's why we're in what we're in. And that's why I really
Hmm.
push taking the moment to feel your feelings and separate them. Because when you can see hurt as its own emotion separate from anger, you can have more control over things. And if you can understand the different, the grayness in between, and where does that come from? How does that come from? And that's the thing of beating depression too, is being aware of when it starts to step in and why. Why is it? Is it a memory? Well,
Mhm.
then start telling yourself every day, I cannot accept the past and see its lessons unless I let go.
Mhm.
You and
Exactly.
pretend yourself as a snake, and even if you shed one layer, the Sioux Indians have the belief that you are the temple. Your body is your home, so you stuffed all your belongings and the furniture in the closets. Well, when we
Yeah.
start to do this self-love journey and we start to work on our depression or our depressive reasons behind it, well, we start to set that furniture up, take it out of the closets very slowly, very carefully, and very, oh, I can never remember that word, but meaning,
I
this is
got you.
where you want it set up and this is where it belongs, kind of thing. So you're not second guessing yourself later.
Mhm.
And that's why you take your time doing that. And then sooner or later, you got that dark, dank, friggin' little dot in the back closet you got to deal with. And
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
spot
Yep.
that, okay, when life says, okay, this is yours, you are now ready. Life never gives you anything you're not ready for. It's
Agreed.
how you choose to deal with it, whether it becomes a problem. I always tell people when I work with groups, chaos precedes change. And if chaos keeps happening, it means that you're refusing to climb from one plateau to the plateau above you where you belong.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
longer you push back, the worse that chaos is going to become. And every single time, I'll get told later, that might be a good idea and that good theory, And it's like, no, it's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. It's did it work for you and when did it work for you best?
Mhm. Yep.
But
And just
depression can
and
be defeated.
yeah, it can. It can. It definitely can. It definitely can.
I mean,
And
look at the
you get
gifts. Look at the gifts,
yeah.
you know? I
Yeah.
mean, literally in my position, I can only work DoorDash. I'm wiped out 90% of the time or in pain. And yet I'm still out there trying to save the world because I know what it's like to have somebody do something for me and I want to do that for somebody else. You know, just like what you're trying to do with podcasts and stuff, you're trying to help lift another person because you have lifted yourself.
Yep. Podcasts, comic books, novels, magazines. Um, and I got a clothing brand coming down the road.
See, that's
Um,
why I can never remember what brand goes with what name for what reason.
don't worry, I'll send you the breakdown of everything when I type it up.
You're gonna have you're gonna have a whole string of these dot card bracelets down your arm.
Yeah, don't worry, buddy. Yeah. And I've also planned to do a nonprofit down the road too. I changed the name recently. I call it the Kevilyst Life Foundation. I think I told you about it. The Kevilyst Life Foundation. I want that. I call it Kevilyst Life because I'm sharing my life and I want to help build up your life. And so that's why I call it the Kevilyst Life Foundation because it's like God has gave me the foundation to live, and I want to be able to spread that love and build your foundation of life and as well. And growing up, I was taught that when God says the church, He's actually talking about the body that He put you in that you need to protect. He's not talking about a physical building. He said your church is your temple body. You have to take care of your body. And he never says it was a physical building. He created us as spirits before he put us in in flesh bodies for us to walk this earth, and we have to protect our bodies. And that means you have to protect your mind, your spirit, your everything. And speaking of books, my book I mentioned earlier that I took down a couple years ago about my life. At first it was called Testimony of Life, and now it's actually going to be called what this podcast is called. It's called the Kevilyst Road. I'll be sharing my road of faith and where I came from and to where I am now, and just being open to why I got into this and how I got into this. um, so that will also be I'll show a breakdown of why my brands are named a certain way they are named. So to also help you understand why they're named the way they're named. Um, but yeah. And speaking of your book, I forgot the title of it. I suck at names. My
Out
apologies.
of the ashes.
Thank you so much. You sent me the full I often say script, the full manuscript of the book. I got through most of well, not most of it, at least a third third or fourth of it. No, a third. I'd say a third of it. Um, but what's it? I don't know. I got through a lot. I got through a lot of it. Let's put it that way. Jesus. Uh, um, I really resonated with it, especially on the. I really love how you explain self-love in the book, and how you break it down, and I explain how you can actually heal from just by loving yourself. And I would love to talk about your book a bit and just what made you, or well, first, what made you come up with the title, and like tell us the backstory of of this book.
You know, to be honest, I do. Yeah, at the end of the book, and This will explain why my answer for this will sound weird. But at the end of the book, I do a Da Vinci journal, which is the hardest thing for anybody to a Da Vinci style journal where you just don't think, you just write.
Huh.
Well, how
I
many of us
understand
can
that.
really
Yeah.
start writing without thinking about our day? Not many. I mean, some of us who are writers, yes, we're
Yeah.
conditioned to it. You know,
Yeah.
we get reader's block, writer's block, and well, how do you cure that? Da Vinci says just write, don't
Yeah.
think, and
Yeah.
and it happens sometimes. My best music has come out that way, and so I honestly don't really remember. I think I had like sit there and gone, what would be a good title? And of course, to me, a phoenix kept coming up, and I kind of let myself tell myself what I'm gonna do by just giving myself answers and then walking around with it for a while. So I
Yeah.
got out in nature, and I was at a friend's house, and I was still camping out in my car, but I'd go in the house and utilize, and then I would help do some work on the house and stuff. And I don't know. Something told me, it was time to do something different than a poetry book. And I was itching to write something. And, I was like, geez, and I started fighting the KDP crap from a publisher going belly up. And I couldn't understand that. I had some health issues going on. And I said, if I'm going to write something, it's going to come to me, whatever it is. And
Right.
then, like a week later, I started writing. I started voicing stuff that would pop up in my head while I was out in the woods looking for ghost pipe or mushrooms or, jelly, Oh yeah, I was huge into foresting at that. I mean, foraging because I wanted to find things that could maybe help cure whatever I'm going through. Maybe I could find something. And that's when I found ghost pipes so I could get rid of my depression. And once I started utilizing that, the book just became so clear. Something I knew that I needed to tell the story of how I found peace within such chaos brought into my life. And it just turned out to be at first, it was a 60-page book with a company journal. I was going to do two. And then I went through and I said, I want people who don't read well not to have to worry about looking up words. And I got a degree in mental health and human services years ago when I lived after a divorce, living on the streets.
That's
Um,
interesting. I have a degree in human services.
yeah, and I, I had gotten to that point, so I understood a lot of things about the mental health side. I understood, that helped me find me, believe it or not, even though it was years ago. And it gave me like being from the streets as well as having that degree, book smarts and street smarts. It allowed me to see the simplicity of how something is, I could look at myself and say, wow, I overcame this by doing this, yet this was the resolve of why and how it came. And I says, how can I put this in a book? How can I dumb it down so that, not meaning to dumb it down, but verbiage wise, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could let everybody take a hold of that book and not have to look into a dictionary to find out why, because then you've lost the person. And when I saw the simplicity of everyday life that we trash, and we give up on ourselves so many times a day. And our days are stressful because first we give up on ourselves in the morning, alarm clock, not taking care of ourselves food wise, not taking care of ourselves sleep wise. Oh, I'll get that tomorrow. Oh, I'll go to bed early tomorrow night. Oh, I'll hit that snooze alarm. Those things are things that are so basic and every day in our lives that we instantly give up on. And if you're going to give up on something that simple in your life, where else are you going to give up on your life? Everywhere.
yep, everywhere.
And when you start doing those things in the morning like you should, get up, get going, give yourself time. A lot less stress, a lot less anger, a lot better health, happier. Things change. And I don't think I would have really saw that basic necessity of those simple facts. I don't think with my depression I could have. So I think everything fell like dominoes. My foraging, because of my health, I went into foraging. The foraging went into healing something. The healing went into being able to write a book. Now, me, in all my books, I've given away more than I've ever sold. And I don't care. I really don't. I want to help people. If I leave this planet, the one thing I want to do is the same thing I do believe my grandfather said. How do you want to be remembered? By your rotten fucking carcass or your word? And I would want to be remembered by my word because I didn't really start off so great. And if I can help someone else rise above the depressive moment, the suicidal thoughts, the rage, the anger, the anxiety, the disbelief in self, the believing that wow, I'm low, so I can't write a book, I can't do this. I've done more things being homeless and not being able to afford a place, and maybe I got lucky in a few places where I didn't really have to pay rent. I did housework, I did painting, I did repairs, and I got lucky in a few of those places. But when you really look at it, at any moment, you're out. You know, at any moment, life could throw a curveball. So, really, are you still homed or are you homeless still at that point because you got no security? But yeah, most of my time being on the streets, I've done more good than I've not, except for in my youth. But I mean, that just proves that no matter where you're at, you can. And the only thing that stops you is you believe you can't.
Hmm.
I couldn't defeat depression if I lived by I can't.
Yeah, yep, that is true. And that's what the best way my mom said is that can't is not in our vocabulary.
Oh,
He said
boom.
can't, can't, or the word quit, or the word never is not in our vocabulary.
Well, even won't. Think about it. Well, I
And
wouldn't
well,
do that.
yeah,
I won't do that. Well, if you've never tried it, if you've never gotten to the edge, then, at least try. I can see certain things. I'm not going to climb a mountain with no ropes. I won't do that because,
yep,
I believe life ends when it's time. Not, we can't speed it up, we can't stop it. Even suicide, you think about it. It was their time. What have we not learned because of suicide? We've not learned to listen. If we learned to slow down and listen, would we have that or whatever was going on? Nobody listened.
Yeah,
You know, so it was their time and there was a lesson in it, and we keep refusing to see it. So whenever someone is life is taken or shortened, I always see that as what is the lesson that we're missing, because that shouldn't happen if we were learning the lesson. So for me, what was the lesson when I got there? What did I do to put myself in that position? Because when I'm angry, it's mostly against my own stupid decision.
you're not wrong.
I call it going into the mirror room. Go into the mirror room and sit down. All you've got is you looking back at you.
Yeah, you gotta look at your reflection to understand what's going on,
You do, because all of your emotions are screaming of self before they're screaming of anybody else.
and you gotta hold yourself accountable.
And a lot of people don't want that mirror
Because they're afraid to
because it's
see what they
never I.
because
It's always he, she, them, they, you,
yeah,
never I.
that's what I had to go to have to look in my reflection. I basically have to have an ego death. That's what, and that's why I tell people like I don't have an ego anymore. It's like I look at myself and realize what's wrong, and I find a way to fix it. Before I try to hold somebody accountable, I have to first check myself, make sure that I'm actually in the right position to even try to correct somebody.
You
And so
know,
it's like I don't have an ego anymore. I had ego death,
it's a good thing that at a
and I'm
young
all
age you got that.
yeah. And it's funny when people like talk to me, like see me, they say, "Dude, are you sure you in your 20s?" I'm like, "Yes." And there's like, "Dude, you have such a maturity to you that is not of your age." And
You're an
they
old
explain
soul.
and then I've been told that so many times. And my sister says that I am an honorary millennial. I'm an honorary millennial. Millennial, Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean,
Due to the fact that I'm just like her in a way because we're both introverted and we're both old. Like we were raised old school, and we always been told that we have old souls because we do not act like people in our generation. Well, she is a millennial. I'm in Gen Z, whatever they call it. But she says I'm an honorary millennial. And I was like, if you ask me about any artists in my generation, I would not be able to tell you because I don't listen to people in my in my generation. I can tell
yeah,
you old school, like the old school. I can tell you.
I don't
I
know.
was
As,
like,
as
but
as a
no,
songwriter, you get to listen and you get used to like. I find people that listen and was raised Beach Boy era, Beatles up through. They love hard rock today, the new stuff, and I'm like, how? And they're like, when we played, we wanted heavier, we just couldn't because of the culture and the time, you
yeah,
know. And
yeah,
you had mentioned the ego death. I think what a lot of people also miss is like the pride death. When I truly was alone in my vehicle for the first time ever, no friends anywhere around, no family anywhere around. I could have went probably weeks before anybody would have reached out. And sometimes I still believe that, except for a couple of people. And at that moment, it was like I really got to face loneliness. I got to face that piece of me in a way that I'd never done before. And I think that's where a lot of our depression comes in as well, is we'd like people to show their care and concern, but we push them away because we don't want them to show their care. Don't worry about me, but please show me, some. So in that battle, I think what we, I had to realize that my loneliness was not the loneliness of another person or other people. My loneliness was of the yearning of the motherly love I never got as a child. And when that dawned on me, whoo, talk about release. Talk about a release that was gone. And I would my loneliness no longer was loneliness in the depth that it had ever, it was so shallow at that point, and it was of true friendship loneliness, of not, of liking that. And you think all that time that that depth of loneliness is because of love or not having somebody, and you realize that, wow, that's only like that much of it. It's
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
that amount
Oh
is
yeah.
shallow because you love yourself now. That's why it's so shallow. And no one, what, and the sad thing is once you start growing and get away from the depressive side and you start growing and maturing emotionally and spiritually at that point, um, you you start to shed like a snake. People, places, things, because you realize of how much that was filler to fill the void. And once you didn't have that void anymore, that didn't fill it. And you start to really call out people quicker. You start to hold your boundaries stronger. You start to demand better. And even somebody from the streets to somebody that's rich, you could have friends in that category that are tight because they respect you, because they know, and you know. It's just that, and you start to get where your pride is destroyed, your ego is destroyed. And for me as a Gen X raised on a farm, pride was a friggin' hard thing to let go of. And you don't realize how much pride you have until you're hiding your face using a stamp food card.
Wow.
And you're like, wow. Then all of a sudden you realize that's pride right there. You refuse to ask for help, but you'd rather freeze to death. You refuse this, but you'd rather do that. That's pride, and I had to kill that. Now, still today, it ain't out of pride. It's out of because I know how to take care of myself. I know what to go out and pick in the woods if I need to eat, and to forage for medicine and stuff to a good degree, and I'm still learning. But, them are things that I can pass on to my grandkids, on to my kids, that choose to do so. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I did not take the chance to learn to love myself. And that is where our depression is no one else can love us and fill that void. And that's where a lot of our depression is. Well, how come that parent didn't love me? Well, how come this person didn't give me this? And, getting told you're a fucking piece of shit, you'll never amount to fucking nothing, and shit like that. You got to realize that's a past. You're never going to change that. But why do you give it all that space in your life to destroy you? And I understand that some people need counseling to get beyond, to that point.
Yep. Yep.
For
Yep.
me, I sucked up information. Why do I do this? I was so curious. Why? Why do I feel this way? Why? And I just sucked up the information because to me, I wanted control of my life. I didn't want drugs and alcohol to control me again. I wanted control. I didn't want society to, I realized that living by society's ways was drowning. I had to fit into their box. I don't fit into a box. I don't think that way. Nor can I. Society's box is, boy, it's limited on intelligence, especially, as we go along further. Common sense is, I don't know what common they're thinking about. Because there ain't nothing
Yeah.
common anymore.
Not at all.
And I think that feeds a lot of the depressive side of the country. Besides the seasonal stuff, I really think not having family to lean on, not having, the income in order. I mean, when I was probably your age, $9 an hour, 40 hours a week, I could afford an apartment, car payment, insurance, groceries, kid. You can't afford that now at $9 an hour. Not even at $20 an hour.
That's ridiculous. That's very ridiculous.
And we wonder why our nation is going backwards and we're getting more angry and we're getting more tired. And that's exactly why. And people are feeding off of it. So we're going to have probably another civil war if this keeps up, which, sadly, you think about it,
So sad.
maybe it will wake some people up, maybe it won't. But at the same fact,
that's a big if.
we have the ones of us that are on this side fighting for a cause have got to do it at ground level. If we can change our local communities, bring in programs to help the youth rise up to make that stronger foundation, look at programs that can lower taxes, lower the economic need out of the consumers' pockets, the community members' pockets, and tighten certain things up that are wasteful, work together. We can help combat a lot of people's depressions by bringing in positive groups to have just talk.
Agreed. Thank you.
And when we get our communities involved together, yes, they might argue. They might get heated. Well, then who's really there for the community or who's just an armchair quarterback that just wants to cause drama because they hate their life.
Right.
And that's where depression is truly about self. I mean, when we blame ourselves for the tapes that we hang on to, when we blame ourselves for the trauma that has happened to us from someone else, when we blame ourselves for the stupid mistakes that I wouldn't call them mistakes, the habits that we consider stupid habits and we repeat over and over, but we've given up and said, fuck it, it's just who I am. No, if you feel there's something different, it's because something inside is telling you you deserve better. You deserve higher. You deserve more. And it's all about finding your higher purpose and that you can make a change. But to get that message to the lower bottom of society, that's a bitch. It's a tough battle. So people like me, you and Christina and a couple of other people I know, we're all crazy enough to step up and put ourselves as targets. And we're willing to I've been working for Rockland, hoping to bring change to this little town of Rockland, Maine. I was hoping that I could bring programs that would not change anything about its uniqueness and its quaintness, but to strengthen its foundation, make it cheaper for the people that are the true Rockland habitants, and make it so that it's growing beyond anything that anybody around here could ever imagine without doing nothing but rebuilding what it already once thrived upon. And the anger, hate, and disdain that comes out of one person wanting to bring change. And, it's because we have nothing better than to argue or fight today, because what is our TV about? What is our songs about? It's everything. And we pick and choose what direction we want to follow based off who tickles our fancies the most. And, the sad part is, in the 60s and 70s and all before, we had our own identity. Today, people make politics, religion, or their career their identity. They don't know who they are. And prove it. You go on a date site or you talk to somebody you don't know and you ask them, who are you? They are going to go off on some tangent about somebody else. And it's no. Who are you? And it goes blank and the conversation is never had again. And you don't hear from them again. And that is proof to me that, one, men has put themselves in a position because of the way they've treated women, which is fairly simple, easy to find out. Anybody that's watched anything in the last 10 years should know that. Um, two, we're not taught anything of the basics of who self is anymore. We are led to believe, this belief or that belief or these people or that people or this direction or that. There is no choice in the matter. And that all feeds what happens down the road for those tapes that are repeating.
Yep,
And that
exactly.
is where we get our depression and our anxieties and all of the little quirks in between that mix, match, and master from the traumas. So, I mean, it's not like we're sowing solid dirt to grow anything on. We're more or less nuking the shit out of our own country by numbing and killing the emotional brainstem of our youth.
It's a sad truth. That is a sad truth. But before we go, I want to do this thing where I got inspired to do this from a wrestling podcaster where he's all about being thankful and being grateful, and he always asks his guests, "What is the three things that you're thankful for and you want to give thanks?"
Three things that I'm thankful for. Believe it or not, my ability to speak out, because without that, how would anybody know that there can be a change? Who's going to fight for the people who don't fight for themselves? Why not? What else do I got to do in life but sit here and be sick? I can sit there and let that be depressive, ruin my entire life, bring me to suicide, or I can put that into something positive. Show people that no matter where you are, what level of the ladder you are in society, you can make a change, even if it's just planting a seed. My second thing would be the people that I have been surrounded by, because no matter where I'm at, what's going on, when I reach out for help, whether it be such as yourself helping with, events that I try to plan and never seem to fall through lately, or, reaching out saying, hey, I need some help advertising something, or hey, I need your ear because of this or that. It always seems to be that I get surrounded by a group of people, and then them group of people get weeded down to the right people. And I'm grateful that my life has that ability now to be able to weed that out and make a solid foundation. Three, the power and the energies that drive me, whether they be God or what have you out there. I believe that, there is something that pushes us to be greater. There is something that we all reach for and wonder where we came from. Me, I always look out at Orion's belt, and for some reason, since I was a kid, that feels like home. And when Men in Black came out, it freaked me out that there was home in Orion's belt.
Man, I love Men in Black.
But I'm a Star Trek fan, big time. I love it. I watched the series, all the movies, all the way up to the last one that I got, which is, I think, Khan again. And I watch them every year. But I mean, I am so thankful for the. I don't know. I call it Father, Son, and Mother Earth. That's what I thank every day, even though I may not say it. I do. And if it weren't for nature, I would be dead today. I know that because it was in nature that I found myself. It is in nature that I found love. I found peace. I found questioning and wonder and awe and life and death and just, I don't know, there was something that happened when I was alone in nature, and it's been that way since a kid. And I'm just grateful for whatever that power is, that it's given me a purpose. It's given me direction. Maybe not the best sometimes at what I do, and I'm not great at getting the words across that I mean sometimes. And I use ChatGPT to clean up my mouth a lot. But it's those powers that be that brought me to write a book, that brought me to connect with you, Christina. Rachel from Vlana. Seb from Theria. Different people in different groups across the United States, because sooner or later something's going to happen, and it's going to be those people in that web that is going to be there for so many other people when it's time. I strongly believe that.
Hell yeah, dude. And it's an honor to actually to meet you face to face now.
And what about
Um,
you? What about you on them three?
well, for me, it's always been family. Uh, two, I'm thankful to be alive, breathing, and three, the determination to keep going and never to give up. Because watching my mom with everything she's gone through, from listening to what she had to go through her childhood and the mental aspect she had to deal with, especially with what because she grew up without a father too, and man, I have no choice but to keep going because if she can get through it, she pushed me to go through it, to get through it as well, and to push my sister to get through it as well. And I come from a strong business mindset family, so that's also why I go like 1,000 miles per hour in my brain. Like so many things I'm doing at once because I want to build a foundation where I can potentially create jobs for people. I want because even like when I mentioned my leadership camp, we went out, in the area picking up trash, cleaning up the areas, helping people. There's been times like me and my sister could be out eating. I could see someone that need help. I politely go stop my sister like from mid conversation. Say, hold that thought. That person needs help. I'll be right back. So I politely go to that person and say, "Hey, do you need help? Do you need a hand?" I was like, I'm like, well, I'm like, I'm not trying to, I'm not bombarding you. I'm like, would you like a hand? Especially if it's a woman, I'm like, I'm not bombarding you. I just see you have a lot of baggage that you can't, which you like some help. And I think that made her day. She said, "Thank you so much." And I took it to her car, made sure she got in her car safely. I remember a random memory from a couple, I don't know how long, it was so long ago. We're at a Walmart at night. A worker was talking to us, tell us her story. I said, "May I hug you?" And she said, "Yes." And she said she needed that hug. And it's like God gave me that intuition that someone needs a helping hand, if it's a hug or just needs a safe soul to just talk about something. Well, that's why I don't get like weirded out if someone randomly talks to me. I was like, they might just need someone to talk to, and I guess I'm like the chillest soul that they sense that they can talk to. And
It
I was
took me a
like,
while to get used to it, because it was like, why does all the problems come my way? And at first you're like, I don't want the drama, God, leave me alone. And you realize
yeah,
that no, you are the seed. You're the true counselor. What are they? The Zen master or whatever,
something like that.
And
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I just laugh with them, just like because they might need someone to laugh with because they might be going through a hard day or something, and and I just be like, I listen. I'm like, I'll listen. I'm like, I hope this helps with you, and I don't see him again. I'm like, I hope your rest of your day, each day gets better, and that's why I started.
That changes it.
That's
That changes it
and
for somebody. Just a smile sometimes.
that's a simple smile, and sometimes I go home and say, hey, just to say hey to somebody, and that's what also gives my mother because. My mother is also Walmart again. My mother saw a young man. He looked like he was down, and she just said, "Hey," and asked him, and just told him like you need to smile today. And he grinned ear to ear. And I was like, the kindness. It's not that hard to be kind, and just be there for somebody that you don't know. Just give them a simple hey. Hey,
I, I,
hey. It's just that simple.
I think we've become the sad thing is it would be so easy to do that, but so many people have been hurt by so many within their own circle that to trust another human being or to be nice or to believe someone could be nice to you without wanting something for a huge amount of of the population. I've run into that everywhere. What do you want? And it's like I want nothing other than to hopefully that you'll smile.
Yep.
I've
That's it.
walked up to women and told them, like, what was it? I was at the Shaws here picking up a delivery for um, DoorDash. And I saw this girl and she wasn't smiling. She looked stressed out. And so we were walking up and I'd looked, made sure I didn't really see a ring on her finger because I didn't want to get slapped or nothing. And I was with one of their coworkers, which is a friend of mine. And I says, "Oh," I says, I was telling this guy the other day." I says, "Boy, she looks angry." And she smiled. And I says, "Man, you look hot as shit with that smile. You keep it up, good. You go, girl. Keep that smile going." And I walked right up. Weren't hitting on her or nothing, but I believe that telling somebody, like I walk in sometimes and say, "Wow, you are absolutely stunning today." Has anybody told you that? Well, have a great day. And I walk out.
Like just as simple as that. Yeah. Simple as that.
Well, I
Well,
see the value of it because nobody ever said anything good about me when I was young, and when I first heard first "I love you" out of my dad, wow, I think I was in my 30s. But that's when we
wow.
first started building a connection,
Wow.
so but that took me having to walk away from another parent because of all the lies and the deception and the anger. So I mean, when it was time, that switch was an easy switch because I wanted to know. Well, I wanted to know why. I wanted to grow. So I mean, people, there's a lot of things in people's lives we don't understand, and that's where the depression comes from. But at the same time, they can overcome it if they choose to want to learn. It's very easy to learn how.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, brother, I appreciate you for coming on, man.
I appreciate you for asking me on. I think this was great. And I think, as you get going along, I think you're going to have some amazing people. I've got a few people I can suggest, that might fit the bill with, trying to overcome and fight the good fight in their own lives through their depression and their problem.
Well, let them know if they need a safe space. They can come on my podcast if they feel comfortable talking about it.
Absolutely.
To you guys that watched this episode, please like and comment and follow us along on our journeys. You can find me on Facebook at I am Kevin Davis CEO and TikTok I am Kevin Davis CEO and Instagram at I am Kevin Davis Official. Where could we follow you? Are you posting your
TikTok,
videos on?
same name that I got in here, Kristoco, Kristoco on TikTok as well as Facebook. TikTok, I usually do more of the videos of self love and, you know, issues around and stuff. I haven't been on as much because I have been fighting for the people. And it's hard to, you know, I'm refilling. I'm taking this time to refill, like I did the end of the winter. I wanted to empty, and now I'm refilling. Now I'm learning who I am this year, who I want to be, what direction I want to go, and we all need to take that time. So I decided to take that time, and every now and then I'll do a video. But they can find me on Facebook, Instagram. They can get the book Out of the Ashes anywhere that you buy ebooks as well, and they just got to look up that name.
All right, you guys heard that from us. But thank you for coming on, brother. And this is the new mental health mainly podcast called the Kevilyst Road, where we share the road of how we deal with mental health and what we've gone through and what we are at now. So stick around and watch this episode, like it, subscribe to YouTube, and have a good night or day or wherever you are. So